The recent cholera outbreak in Nigeria, which has resulted in some fatalities, is being treated with the seriousness it deserves by the ministries and agencies concerned at the federal and state level to forestall further loss of life. That's our focus on Special Report this week.
Cholera is a very virulent disease transmitted through ingestion of contaminated food or water. It can cause acute watery diarrhea, and severe cases of cholera can kill within hours if untreated. The history of cholera dates back to the 19th century in India. Afterwards, 6 pandemics killed millions of people across all continents, including North America, Central America, and South America, infiltrating Africa in 1971. In June 2024, the World Health Organization announced the re-emergence of cholera cases across countries in Africa, East Asia, America, Europe, and the Eastern Mediterranean region, saying data showed about 195,000 have been reported in those regions of the world. Nigeria has had the unpleasant occurrence of cholera outbreak with over 140,000 suspected cases and no fewer than 4,634 deaths from 31 states of the Federation from week 26 of the year. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention indicated that Lagos, Bayelsa, Abia, Zamfara, Bauchi, Katsina, Cross River, Ebonyi, Rivers, and Delta State contributed about 90% of the cases. Pointed out that some of the challenges faced in the fight against cholera include open defecation, inadequate toilet facilities, poor sanitation, and contaminated food and water.
The third leg of the tripod of the teaching hospital.
In a media briefing in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, the Director General, Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Jide Idris, gave more details.
With the help of the Ministry and our corporation, we have very strong equipment base, basic for a tertiary institution. If you ask, is there anyone that you lack? And it is one, which is the MRI machine.
The federal government has warned that the increasing level of flooding and continuous rainfall may make the spread of cholera in the country worse. The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, spoke on the rising cases of cholera in the country.
So far, I think we're doing well. In some areas, the case fatality rate is higher than we would like to see because of delayed presentation for treatment and the quality of the treatment centers in many of the states. But I think that we're dealing with through the Emergency Operations Center at the LCDC.
The Bauchi state government reported 50 suspected cases of cholera, at the time not confirmed, but with the executive chairman of the Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Rilwan Mohammed, saying a plan was in motion to counter an outbreak.
We have suspected cases of cholera in Bauchi state. We have about 50 in number. And then this is Bauchi, Toro, and Giade. And then it started with about 30 in Giade in January, and then we have another suspected in March. Then just 3 days ago, we have about 4 suspected cases in Bauchi LGA, additional and Toro. And these 4 in Bauchi, 1 suspected death. We're taking sample, and but there's no confirmed case of cholera in Bauchi state. But we have 50 suspected cases of cholera in Bauchi state today. Though we have confirmed cases in Lagos and other places, but Bauchi state, we only have suspected cases of cholera. And we actually started our level of preparedness meeting with all our partners. We designed our activity in terms of laboratory, case management, surveillance activity that we're going to carry out, our community outreach, surveillance activity that we're going to carry out, we're all mapped out. And then the chlorination of our well in Bauchi town and other places has been marked, and we've written to the governor to give us support to carry out this chlorination and the contamination of households.
In Rivers State, following the outbreak of cholera in parts of the country, the authorities of Port Harcourt City local government area of Rivers State began to ensure that residents are protected against a killer disease. Chairman Caretaker Committee, Port Harcourt City Local Government, Ezebunwo Echemati, while inspecting the popular Romowaji market in the Mile 1 area of Port Harcourt, frowned at the conversion of toilets to shops. He ordered the immediate closure of the shops, saying such practices jeopardizes the health of visitors to the market and compromises public health.
You know, the market falls under the purview of the local government. And as the mayor of Port Harcourt City, it is part of my routine duty to ensure that I visit most of these institutions that are under the purview of the local government to ensure that things are running well and see how they are faring. And now coming down to my one market, which is my first official visit to any of our buildings or institutions, it is quite unfortunate the discovery I saw here that provisions made for toilets for customers and traders have been turned to shops. Not that it was converted, that the other things that were being used as toilets was removed. Visibly, you're seeing WC there, but people are using it as stores now. So it's a sad one. One, it is unhygienic. Two, it's the desperation of, according to what the market chairman said, that previous administrations, and especially the immediate past mayor, that they converted these shops. And it's a sad one. It is a sad one that people who come to market, they don't have access to the restrooms. And you see them defecating and urinating under the staircase or on the walkway. And you're causing disease germs for other people. But we will not take it, and that is why I'm here. Why we were sworn in to ensure empowerment for Port Harcourt people, we also ensure their safety. And this is part of what we are doing. I've ordered that those toilet locations be shut down until further notice. It will be converted back to its original state that it was meant to be used as a restroom. It will go back to that particular state.
Soko, a coastal community in Akukotoro local government area of Rivers State, is one of the major oil and gas hubs in the state. As a story of other oil-producing areas in the Niger Delta, this community with over 30 satellite communities lacks basic amenities, including potable drinking water. Residents say the lack of this water, compounded by unfriendly oil exploration activities, is responsible for many outbreaks of waterborne diseases, including cholera, which they say has claimed 9 lives this year.
We used to fetch from rainwater from the roofs. You can see the rainwater, the roofs, the level of corrosion. So that again becomes poisonous. Then, from when before my father was born, that is a well, that is native hand-dug well, the only source of groundwater you have. It is not good enough. So over this time, you see that when there is water insecurity, people resort to all manner of things and drink. Where we defecate is where we bathe, where we also fetch water sometimes to use. So you can see that all the risk factors of cholera is there. That's why repeatedly, intermittently, from time to time it happens.
In 1 week, I would have lost my life, my wife's life, and my last daughter's life of 12 years. Cholera. Look at how polluted is our water. Oil and gas. God has blessed us with giving us this oil and gas. But we are receiving the punishment now. All the waters are polluted. By God's grace, I will give you the sample of the water we are drinking. You will pity and sympathize with the situation of the community.
Overwhelmed by the insistent outbreaks, the community recently sought the help of the Niger Delta Development Commission, for which the commission immediately intervened with this medical mission. The coordinator of the NDDC Medical Emergency Intervention here, Dr. Henry Angari, says over 600 persons have so far been treated for various ailments.
Most of them, they have malaria, and we've been able to manage the malaria, not severe malaria, so we've been able to manage them. And a few cases, we had a recordable high sugar level, which we've been able to tackle. We've seen cases of diarrhea, more than 1 week, some few days, some 3 weeks. We've been able to manage them, correct the dehydration, and then we reported the cases. We reported those cases to Degema Hospital, which is the government hospital. So they assured us that they are going to come and take samples. So when they take samples, then when they detect the Vibrio cholera and any other organism like Vibrio cholera especially, that's when you now say, oh, this person has cholera.
For the River State representative on the NDDC governing board, this intervention of the Regional Development Agency is part of its responsibility to the people of the oil-rich Niger Delta.
It's about saving of life. The lives of our people here in Suku were in danger. And the people complained, they shouted, they cried. There was a wide cries and hues and cries from Suku people requesting that NDDC should come in. And they made reference to the fact that it had happened in 1971. And in 1971, it was so terrible that 5 persons, including the paramount ruler of this community, died. One day. That in 2016, the same thing happened. And that IBIM, as the acting MD of NDDC, quickly intervened. And with that, they had tied our hands and said, well, there was nothing else we can do because we won't sit to see our people suffer. NDDC is directly responsible for the people of Niger Delta. Yes, we work in collaboration with others, with state governments, with other agencies, sister and brother agencies. We do work in collaboration. But when you talk about medical emergency that has to do with the lives of people, then there is no if and but.
And as the NDDC team leaves the community, residents are hoping that they will make good on their promise of providing potable drinking water, which will help to put an end to avoidable deaths in the oil-producing community. The Lagos state government from the outset confirmed that the outbreak is due to cholera, warning that the particular identified strain is highly aggressive and contagious with the potential for widespread dissemination. The Lagos state government further disclosed that they are receiving support from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, international partners including the World Health Organization, asking for people to adhere to strict personal and environmental hygiene. The Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akian Bayomi, made further disclosures during a multi-agency press conference on cholera outbreak held in Alausa in Ikeja.
We urge our residents to support the government's effort by adhering to hygiene practices, drink safe water, cook your food thoroughly, maintain personal hygiene and wash hands regularly, use sanitizer and avoid crowded places, report symptoms like watery diarrhea or vomiting immediately, and utilize free treatment for suspected cholera at all our government facilities.
And now joining us on special reports is Dr. Grace Adeyeye, a consultant gastroenterologist and hepatologist at Uniosun Teaching Hospital, Oshogbo. Thank you so much for joining us on special report today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's begin with the rudimentary aspects of this cholera outbreak and the disease itself. The fact that it's such a disease that has been well known for decades, for years, for centuries, lends to the fact that the medical practice is well prepared to handle cholera. But in spite of that, these outbreaks keep occurring, not just in Africa, but around the world. Could you begin by telling us what you know of the virulous nature of cholera and why it's such a dangerous disease?
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for having me today. Okay, so cholera is one of the germs around. It's a bacteria. Like you know, we are still battling with the COVID-19. So that is a virus, but cholera is a bacteria. Usually it is caused by the organism called Vibrio cholerae. So when it affects individuals, most times, usually it is gotten through poor sanitation, poor hygiene, but through intake of food contaminated with these organisms or water contaminated with this organism. And so when an individual takes this in and then has this infection, the Vibrio cholerae infection, which we call cholera, usually the person can go from not even having symptoms to having very severe symptoms and then developing complications from it and then ultimately death. And this death can actually occur within hours of developing this infection. And that's why it's very dangerous.
And speaking of these deaths, we have already recorded a number in Nigeria. Can you tell us what's happening in Oshogbo and how the government or the people are responding to this problem, and whether there's enough awareness for the people to take care of the environment and take measures that will prevent a spread of the disease?
Okay, so here in Oshogbo, because of the Lagos outbreak, other states are also making sure that they have measures in place to be able to curb this this disease if it comes in. But right now, of course, there are online, we have people coming up with different things to talk about the cholera, making awareness about this, education, radio programs, we're talking to people about this, about how to ensure good sanitation and good hygiene in order to prevent cholera from spreading within our Oshogbo environment here. So even the hospital is also making sure that they have things in place to be able to address patients if they come in with this kind of disease. So we have a lot of awareness programs going on right here in Osun State.
Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Ali Pate, has spoken extensively about the measures the federal government are taking. The NCDC have also done the same as far as enlightening the public as to the measures that one should take, some of which you've mentioned that is happening in Oshogbo at the moment. But as far as the environment is concerned in Nigeria, does this make us more susceptible?
Okay, so I would say that depends on, the environment where one finds oneself. So if you live in a peri-urban slums where you have a lot of people with dense population of people staying in the same area, they have more at risks of developing these infections. Why? Because of poor sanitation generally. So when you have people living in slums and areas such as this, they can actually develop this infection. So it depends on your environment, depends on where you are, depends on your own personal hygiene practices also.
I know we're a developing country, and there's the argument, of course, that facilities in the public sphere are not as available as in other countries, such as sanitation, toilet facilities in public places. How important is it for the government and the local government especially, and the communities, to make these facilities available for public use in the markets, in the stadia, and anywhere where people gather together and are staying for extended periods of time?
Okay, so I think that for our government, I think the government is actually trying its best. What I think we actually lack in Nigeria is maintenance of these facilities. So, because I know right here in Oshogbo, in most of the markets, big markets here in Oshogbo, they have toilet facilities available. But the maintenance culture of our people actually very poor. And then even your own personal hygiene practices too actually goes a longer way in determining whether one will be susceptible to this disease or not.
Yes, and it's good you mentioned the fact that maintenance is a key priority. How much of attention where does the buck stop for you? Is it the local governments, the communities, or the state government to ensure that these facilities are maintained? And in the event where there are not enough facilities, then more can be built?
Okay, so for me, I would say that still concerning cholera infection, I would say that cholera infection prevention actually starts from individuals. The government has its own role to play, in terms of awareness, in terms of education and all that, and also making facilities available for people. But for cholera, majorly, your hygiene practices is the major key in this. So we need to get people to know that they need to have a very good hygiene practices to prevent this infection. So the government, of course, the government is trying, but you can never try enough. So, but they still have more to do. So making sure that these facilities are available in public places, people wash their hands, with soap and water before eating, after going to the toilet. So when you have public toilets, these facilities should be available there for them to use. Water and soap should be made available.
So let's stay with personal hygiene, Doctor, for the moment, which is, as you just rightly pointed out, is very key. That's where it starts, personal hygiene. Are you saying that if more people, and if all the people possibly who are infected with suspected cases of cholera had been washing their hands and what have you, and had been careful as to where they were eating, whether the food they were eating was properly prepared, that these cases will not have, cholera will not have happened in those cases?
Yes, I will say yes. So if I take proper hygiene practices as a very good measure, most likely cholera will not come. And then if I'm going to go and eat outside, if those people preparing the food and also making sure that they have the proper hygiene practices, most likely this will not occur. So it actually depends on individuals. So it lies on individuals.
So how do we know, for instance, if you go to a local restaurant, how do we know whether their food is properly washed before it's prepared? How do we know that they're adhering to the safety and precautionary measures and sanitation in food? In the instance of because we know that that food plays a major role, contaminated food and contaminated water. Let's stay with food before we go to water. In the case of food, outside the home, where we know that lots of Nigerians and lots of people around the world have to resort to eating food made by other people. How necessary is it for agencies that have that commission to make sure that these restaurants, these markets are in a state that is clean enough to prevent the spread of cholera?
Okay, so what I would say is that the agencies responsible for ensuring proper hygiene at restaurants, at eateries, if they have been going around, I would say that they need to go around more, especially during this season, to ensure that people take the proper hygiene and then adhere to the standards that they are supposed to. So to really ensure this, the agencies have to be, on top of their game.
Indeed, and as far as the water aspect is concerned, we know that we have water in sachets in Nigeria, we have bottled water. Could we say that those areas are covered, that the agencies that are necessary to make sure that those standards are upheld are doing their jobs? But as far as water generally, now that we are in the rainy season, there seems to be more of a risk.
Yes, I agree with you. So I would say that the agencies, like I said, this is Nigeria, and I want to believe that everybody has his own job description. So I believe that the agencies that are supposed to monitor this are actually doing their jobs. So for sachet water, bottled water, even the people producing this should adhere to the standards so that they don't contaminate this water before it is taken into the public for drinking. And then the agencies have to ensure that they also do their jobs.
Yeah, finally, in my research about the disease, I found that it's as far back as the 18th century as some of the recorded times that cholera first was noticed by man, according to historical accounts, and it has gone from continent to continent to continent. Every developed country, every continent, it has been a problem back in the day, but recently it's more of a problem, I guess, in the developing nations. Is this because more attention is not being paid by these nations to the dangers of cholera, or is it just because the disease itself is by its own very nature, is hard to contain?
Okay, so I've said that Nigeria is one of the countries that is endemic for cholera. And of course, there have always been cases of cholera here and there, but now we're having some epidemics occurring right now. So the WHO is actually on top of this. In fact, we're talking about ending cholera by the year 2030. With the WHO, at least the target is that I think 90% to reduce cholera deaths by 90%. That's what WHO targets right now. So I would say that the WHO is trying all its best to ensure that the cholera comes to nothing, just like polio has been done. So for me, I would say that it is something that is preventable. It's a disease that is preventable based on the hygiene, and of course, there's also vaccine for it right now. So the vaccines are actually meant to be taken in areas where you have endemic infections of this Vibrio cholerae.
So if we have vaccines for cholera, why not just roll it out en masse and have it end the spread once and for all, not just in this country?
Okay, so the vaccines are actually indicated here because we're in an endemic area, and of course, the risks of outbreak still high here right now. So for people who want to take the vaccine for cholera, they can actually take it. So the vaccines are actually available. Usually it is a 2-dose vaccine, usually taken twice. And then, so I would just say that right now, I think in the US, it is not advocated, it is not in use there right now, but the vaccines are available for us here.
Well, I think we'll end it there. It's tragic to have a disease that's endemic and becomes a pandemic. I think it's more tragic to find that that same problem can be prevented to prevent any loss of life, some of which you've suffered already across the 33 states of Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming on Special Report today, Dr. Grace Adeyeye.
Thank you for having me.
This requisite response to the ills of cholera is apt to prevent a worsening of the situation with the cooperation of Nigerians wherever necessary, because the disease is as dangerous as it is potent. For Special Report, I'm Olumide Macaulay. Thank you for watching.